the work we're doing really
This meeting is
so
being
important.
recorded.
And you might remember that from the very beginning, Horn Smith suggested that we reach out beyond just the people that are attending. We have the technology now. So with your approval, I'd like to make sure we're able to do that as much as possible.
Andrew, you are a trustee, so absolutely. If it's your advice, your suggestion, we will certainly honor it. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We are recording, but Vito, you still have to record for the center, but I'll provide you a link after this so we can go for it. Thank you so much, Stuart. I really appreciate you.
Great, great. So I would say, friends, a few more arrive. So can you stop recording, Vito? Can you stop the recording, Vito? Are you there, Vito?
I can't hear you. I don't know if it's about me.
Yes, your voice faded out, Stuart. You have to do a repeat, but Vito, are you recording for the center? I'm recording, but make sure you're recording it too for Stuart, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I would say,
and I can't hear well on this device, so I'm going to come in on another device, Vito. But thank you so much. I'll be coming in on another device.
Okay, good. Vito. 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 Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Your internet connection is not good, Stuart. We can't hear anything.
Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Charlene here.
Good, Charlene.
Yes, you hear me, but we can't hear Stuart.
So Charlene, you hear me, is that correct?
I do.
Okay.
Do you hear Stuart?
Do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, Charlene.
Okay. I don't know what I'm connected with, but yeah, okay.
So Vito, Charlene, can you tell Vito that you hear me?
Vito, I can hear Stuart.
You can hear him?
I can.
Yes, I can hear him too. Yes.
Yes. No one can hear him. So maybe about his internet connection.
So I can hear both of you, Stuart and Vito.
Charlene, would you make it clear to Vito that both you and Andrew can hear me? Would you make that clear if you can?
Yes. Vito, Andrew, and I can hear Stuart. So I wonder maybe if you turn off your video, you hear Stuart. Okay, I think, let's see. Oh yeah, so Stuart, say something.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Vito, you can hear Stuart? You heard Stuart, right?
Yes, I hear Stuart now.
Okay, good. And Honorable Andrew.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's actually my note taker. So I'm here several times. I'm on a device, my computer, my phone, and note taker. So I'm here multiple times. So it's good to see you. Almost.
Oh, yeah, you can't see me. Sorry. Let me check. I want to make sure how I look. Sorry.
You look beautiful, Charlene.
You can't even see me though,
Your
right?
light is shining. Oh, I know. Your light is shining.
Oh yeah, you've seen me before, but this is like, I'm in a different place. I'll let you see it. I probably need, I don't know. Okay, I need to probably move.
There you are, almost. There you go. Hi there.
Hi. Hi.
Okay. So, shall we begin, friends?
Of course.
There, that's better.
Okay. Let us begin. I'd like to share a verse. And I shared the story of Bernard Lafayette, who Dr. King gave the mandate on the eve of his assassination to institute nonviolence globally. I had a lovely brief meeting with Bernard the other day, and he's part of our sixth National International Forum on Race, where we will look at the providential relationship between Booker T. Washington and General Samuel Chapman Armstrong. And you, Andrew, now you know that story a bit of Booker T. Washington.
Yes.
So I find that quite exciting. So let's begin with the opening verse. And we are two or more gathered, that's all it takes. And we have a young hero with us, a young hero with Fito. More connections have been made, Fito, for the school in Tuskegee. So the opening verse. May our feelings penetrate to the center of our hearts and seek in love to unite themselves with human beings seeking the same goal, with spirit beings bearing grace, strengthening us from realms of light and illuminating our love, our gazing down upon our earnest, heartfelt striving. So, let me ask each of you if you would put in a sentence who friend Rudolf Steiner is or is becoming for you. Who friend Rudolf Steiner is or is becoming for you. Can we start, Andrew, with you, if you could put in a sentence or two?
Well, thank you. Friend Rudolf Steiner, to me, is becoming the face, or I should say the essence of the spiritual science that we're now experiencing here in the United States, period.
Andrew, thank you. He is becoming, I didn't get that one word, is becoming the what of the spiritual science?
The face or the essence of the spiritual science here in the United States of America.
Thank you. Thank you. Charlene, what would you say?
Okay, he's becoming my hero and my role model. I mean, he has consistently, or it kind of goes back and forth, right? But I know I have to be careful not to. I need to honor his words. Don't. Let's see. We're beyond consciousness where we have gurus, right? And he never wanted to be on a pedestal. And so that story about him, yeah, his consciousness has brought him to the place where people don't see him, but yet he's fully there, and they see themselves. Yeah, however you worded it, Stuart. So yeah, my hero. However, yes, there's that. However, thank you.
Yeah, so people in meeting him, they meet themselves in their ever-growing fullness. Because all of his works were labors of love on part of our humanity. Yeah, wonderful. And Tito and Karen and Charlene, that's what I mean by a friend. He's a true friend. Tito, young hero, who is Rudolf Steiner becoming for you?
Um, so I can say an angel because from him I can have some kind of knowledge that I didn't have before, some light. So because now with the with those thoughts with those thoughts, so I can have a new view of the human being, and so on. So I think I can consider him like an angel.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful words. And
You know,
friend, go ahead, Charlene.
right, he is the light on our path, on my path, and I can be the light through Steiner and through Christ and da 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 da, etc. I can be the light, Anthroposophy, Michael, through all of them. I can be the light. I can be the lantern. Yeah, I'm not the light. I can be the lantern that shows the light on their path. And that's kind of the image, I think, depending on, let me see. Oh, yeah, my image of the lighthouse. Shining the light. I'm not the
Beautiful.
light, but I am shining the light. Thank you.
Beautiful. I give very profound experiences of the double, of the shadow, where I felt that I would be stopped dead in my tracks as if something tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Don't forget me, I am there. Don't forget me, I, death, am there." And as you can imagine, that's a disconcerting experience to have when one's young, to say the least. So what has meant the most for me is to because its absence was the power of my years.
Hey, Stuart.
That had me such.
Stuart,
So,
you're often
Yeah.
you're often on. So
Yes.
turn off your camera.
there. I think that will help, Stuart. Although we like seeing you,
So,
or I do.
yeah, so please tell me if my voice disappears. So please tell me immediately if it disappears. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, you can, but you need to repeat what you said earlier.
So my early years, I had experiences of what I've come to understand to be the double or the shadow. And those came to me as if a tap on the shoulder. And when I felt that tap on the shoulder, I was stopped dead in my tracks. I think I've shared this. And it's like my being was annihilated. And I had nothing to bring against that, nothing that the church could give me, or I was able to get from the church, nothing that my education could give me. I knew there had to be something more because of its absence, which was, as I mentioned, this irony, this paradox. You know there's something more because it's absent.
Hey, Stuart, I just want to make sure that Fido can hear you because, I mean, it's good. I can hear everything, but my bandwidth may be a little bit stronger than Fido's. So I just want to make sure. Fido, are you okay with what you can hear?
Yes, I'm okay, but we can't hear Stuart clearly sometimes.
So
Yeah, I
far,
think yeah, just keep your video off while you're speaking, maybe, Stuart, right? And I could turn my video off too. That might help. What do you think, Fido?
But it's not a problem. Okay, Stuart, turn off his video like now.
Okay, so
Yes, we can hear you better.
I knew there had to be something more because it was absent. And it was an existential matter for me. That is, it was about my very existence. And so what Rudolf Steiner brought for me was life, was a response to these taps on the shoulders. And when I arrived at Emerson College in Sussex, England, which was a center for anthroposophical studies, I was sent by my angel in baggy overalls to Emerson College. And I felt that a veil descended around me in this sense of dread from this double, this shadow was gone. So that is what friend Rudolf Steiner gave to me, was something that offered a counterpoint and a response to this force of dread, to this force of the double or the shadow. And that was in the 1970s. So I've been journeying with this friend literally through the stations of his cross for a good while now, over half a century.
So that was when you were in your 30s, right, Stuart?
I was even younger.
Oh, because 30, like 33 is significant. How old were you?
So I would have been about 25, 24, 25 when I met Anthroposophy.
Okay.
so how would you summarize in one sentence what you asked us to summarize, Stuart?
So thank you, Andrew. Friend Rudolf Steiner brought me the light that I was seeking in the face of this rather remarkable shadow, double. He brought light, he brought warmth, he brought illumination, he brought insight.
Thank you.
You know,
And as Charlene said, he wasn't, the last thing he wanted to be was a guru or a master. He wanted people to know and understand his life and his flavors, but he didn't want people to put him on an altar because he knew that would undermine what the work was that he was doing. And that's distinguishes him in many ways from other gurus or masters and all the temptations that arise. He embodied, I would say, the words of Christ. The words, not I, but the words of Paul, not I, but Christ in me. Not I, but Christ in me. So let's take it further. What else have you, Vito, Andrew, Charlene, have you taken from this friend?
Hey, Stuart, could you just explain a little bit more by what you mean by the double and the shadow and what your sense of that was when you related that to Steiner's shadow?
Not to Steiner's shadow, to the light that he cast. But in terms of the double or the shadow, who hasn't said, what got into me? What got a hold of me? What gripped me? What came over me? Even what possessed me? I think we've all heard of the story. Many of us may have heard of the story, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But we have a lower self. And then we have the better angels of our nature, our higher or our truer self. And we can cultivate the one or we can cultivate the other. Does that address your question, Charlie?
I think so. So I think what we're trying to do is to lift up our lower self so that, because I always think of our shadow as negative, like, yeah, like just, if we think dualistically, evil, what's not good in me, but that isn't always necessarily true. My shadow could be just, yeah, like the lower self, just a like Michelle Obama would always say, when they go lower, I go higher, something like that. And so if my lower self goes lower, my true self goes higher. And so the shadow is just that lower self of me, not necessarily the bad part. It's not necessarily bad. Yeah. And I'm dualistically thinking, so that does make things a bit complicated trying to talk about spiritual things in dualistic words. But that's how we understand the world when we speak.
Well, I don't think we need to speak in terms of bad. I think for me, what's more helpful are the words that something isn't so much wrong or bad, but it's too right or not right enough.
Okay.
That is, how do we find the balance?
Okay. Yeah. The equanimity practice. Yeah. I think. Although you can't really separate that exercise from the clear thinking, the control of will, but the equanimity thinking or the positivity. I'm just thinking of Steiner's 6 basic exercises or 6 supplementary, whatever practices. Yeah.
So again, I don't think these terms, as you suggested, these dualistic terms, serve us that much. I had an experience when I was at one of the most difficult moments in my life, when I leaned against my car and I felt this despair coming over me. And I found myself saying, don't worry, out loud, don't worry, it's okay. I'm not going to abandon you. We're in it together. It's all about redemption. And I was actually addressing the despairing spirits that experienced so much despair that they tried to shower it on me. And my words again were, don't worry. It's okay. I'm not going to abandon you. We're in it together. It's all about redemption. And as one reads the scriptures, as you know, Christ is often criticized for being among the tax collectors and the lepers and the prostitutes and the ill. And he says these remarkable words: they are for whom I've come. They are for whom I have come. That is where
Your voice is fading now, Stuart.
that is where he brought the healing and the compassion to the least among us. Is that point clear? Does it make sense, friends?
I think his voice is clear now, right? Andrew
Was-
or Bill?
Was what I said clear? Does it make sense that Christ did not come? Christ came for the fallen, for the sick, for those that had gone astray. Those are for whom he actually came.
Now, Stuart, it doesn't mean that he just came for them, right? He actually came for all of us, but he's just making sure that we understood that he came for all of us.
Yeah, yes,
Okay, thank you.
yes. Indeed, a lot of that is in all of us. You know, we all have our fallen nature.
And Andrew put something in the chat, but you probably can't see it, right, Stuart? Or can
I
you?
don't. No, I don't see it.
Because you're on your phone, right?
Yeah.
I
you want
can
to-
have,
Do you want to read it?
Andrew, do you want to read it?
What, your profile?
Double consciousness, first published. So,
Something you put in the chat?
Hello. This is Andrew. I'm sorry, my phone kicked me out just a moment. Yes, I just put information into the chat about double consciousness. As we were speaking earlier about Booker T. Washington, one of his contemporaries, W. Du Bois in 1903 wrote a book called The Soul of Black Folk. In that he spoke about a double consciousness. But in the chat, I put a link to an article from Stanford that also links it to Ralph Waldo Emerson and transcendentalism. However, in terms of Rudolf Steiner, it seems to me that he brings a third consciousness to all Americans and to all people worldwide, which is a spiritual consciousness. So that's separate from the way that someone else perceives us, which is one consciousness, the way we perceive them in the world, but also the spiritual aspect of what we're doing. So Rudolf Steiner, I believe, brings a very valuable impact and import to our lives as Americans and as human beings on the face of the earth. So I did put a reference in the chat if you have an interest in following that up.
thank you. I just sent it to Stuart by email, so you can look at it later, Stuart.
Thank you. Thank you. Andrew, can you elaborate on that a little more, if you would?
Well, in my own personal experience, Stuart, as I've expressed to you before, there's something in Fito, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but in American history, there's something called the one drop rule. And in the United States of America, what that meant was if you only had one drop of African American blood, then you were considered to be enslavable, so to speak. However, I have to look at that from another perspective. What about the one drop rule working the other way? In my particular case, I have indigenous blood, African blood, European blood. So technically, Stuart, I myself am living in a triple consciousness of the way I perceive the world from each of those differing personas within myself. And that may or may not be true of others. I've had traumatic experiences that cause perhaps what I've experienced to be limited to my own experience. I can't speak for anyone else. But the more I learn about what you're expressing, or at least what your friend Rudolf Steiner has brought into the world, it seems to me it provides a very valuable opportunity and toolkit for us to look deeper within ourselves, but to see how much more we have in common than we have that differentiates us as entities in this world.
And Andrew,
Beautiful.
yeah, that is so true, especially if we think of ourselves as coming into this body from two streams. So we have two streams of ancestors, physical and spiritual, that meet together in me. I'm echoing. So anyway, in me, oh, Andrew, I think if you turn off your video, then I won't echo or something. We'll give that. Yeah, I think that works. Okay. But I like seeing you. So, okay. Yeah, two spiritual streams. Oh, I'm still echoing. Okay. Oh well, I'll just continue on. So that's why we're more related than we think, because we may have the same spiritual ancestors, and in the past we might have had the same physical ancestors, even though we may not have the same physical ancestors now, because yeah, I'm of European ancestry in this incarnation, but I don't know what I was in the past. And I don't believe in doing past life regression. I don't, yeah. So anyway, so yeah. And I'll turn off my audio.
So let me bring forward an insight of friend Rudolf Steiner that I discussed today with a remarkable Black sister in Tuskegee just before this call. And that is, we have the notion of reincarnation, and we can think of it in general terms, sort of theoretically, but it really becomes alive when we think of it in specific terms, terms that serve balance, that serve our unfolding humanity. As in one lifetime white, the next, let's start one lifetime male, the next female. One lifetime Christian, the next Jewish. One lifetime white, the next Black. As we strive to become whole, full, complete, humane human beings. What do you make of this notion, friends? How does it strike you? I'd love to hear from you three, that this insight that friend Rudolf Steiner brings us.
Well, if I may, I have to say that, Stuart, my own consideration of reincarnation has changed greatly since the last discussion you and I had about 2 years ago. Because what's been very clear, and I have to thank you also, Stuart, for helping me to reconnect with my earlier lives. Not so much reconnect, but be conscious of the fact that there are times when I have been in touch with my mother, who passed away in 2000, and she's been in touch with me on a regular, ongoing basis. And so I would think that now I can speak more directly to reincarnation as a true fact, because if you were to consider the words of the Bible, in that we are created in the image of God, God represents all peoples on earth, and all genders on earth, all manifestations on earth. And in that case, each of us may and must have the power to connect together with the spiritual link that connects all of humankind together throughout the world forever and ever.
That is a wonderful insight. Once again, that we are all made in the image of God, and God is universal. That's a wonderful insight, Andrew. Do you want to take it further at all?
I'll open up the floor for any other comments. I can say in terms of reincarnation, however, that the only grounding that I have right now in my life is because of my appreciation of the fact that I'm living multiple lives simultaneously, and I've lived multiple lives simultaneously. And it's only to the degree that I focus on a particular perception that I'm able to tap into that reality. And so if each of us has that power, which we must have that power, then time itself is immaterial to the reality of our consciousness. So I'll put a pin in it there, Stuart.
Lovely. Thank you. Sharon and Fito, can you offer some thoughts, speak to this notion of reincarnation as outlined, one lifetime male, the next female, one Jewish, the next Christian, one black, the next white, so we can become whole, full, complete human beings.
So I always believe that we come here, we come on the earth to become better, to progress. So we have to face different kind of situations that can help us to become this human being, this person. So it's like so we can consider that we pass on some situation that we face in this on the earth. It's a lack of fire. This fire is to help us to become better. So when we come here and we don't accomplish our calling, we don't go up. So we have to come back and to face this same situation, and until we become this kind of person. This is how I think the nature, the universe, playing everything for each human being on the earth. So surely I believe in reincarnation. But sometimes, because I am in a new age where I'm learning about the spiritual thing, sometimes I am faced the religious ideas where they say, so if you don't accept Jesus today, so if you don't do that today, after your death, you will go in. So I miss the word. So sometimes I face this ideology. So I believe in reincarnation, but when I think about this common ideology about Christ, about Jesus, sometimes I'm confused. But in myself, I believe in reincarnation, and as you mentioned, I think we have to come to come in the earth multiple times to face different kind of situations and to become completely ready for our new journey like a human being.
Peter, that's very well said in English. Very well said. I would add that what Rudolf Steiner says about hell is very important. And he said, hell is a blessing. Hell is what we seek. Hell is experiencing what we've done to others. And that we seek it because, first of all, when we've passed away, we have shed or put off the lower parts of our being. The parts of our being that are fearful, the parts of our being that are uncertain, and so on and so forth. When we die, we are left with our essence. And then, as people who've had near-death experiences have described, when we die, we review our life, just like we can do every day. And in fact, it's quite significant to do that every day, to review our day from the moment before we fall asleep all the way back. Because only then, when we do that kind of a review, is it possible that we can learn the lessons. And if we don't do that kind of a review, then as opposed to learning the lessons, it's most likely that we will repeat the errors that we've made. So as we can review, if we're conscious, our day, go back everything we've done and take it to heart and use it as a basis for resolves for the new day. You know, I was quick with a colleague, I was insensitive. And so we can call that to mind as we're heading, you know, as we're reviewing the day and preparing to go to sleep. And we can then remind ourselves in the morning that when I meet this colleague, I want to be on my toes. That occurs at the end of our life. We review our life, all that we've done. And we review it in such a way that we experience what we've done to others. And sometimes that can have a bit of hell in it. But his point, and I want to ask if this makes sense to you, Fito, his point is that we seek that because that's the only way we learn. We seek such hell. I wonder, Andrew and Charlene and Fito, if that makes sense to you.
Yes, yes, it is.
Wonderful, good. Charlene and Andrew, any comments on that yourselves?
Well, I'm in a louder place now, but perhaps you can hear me. I believe it's necessary for us to step into that hell in order to walk in those other person's shoes and to be open to all of the experiences that life brings and walk through that hell into a new reality.
Beautiful. And Charlene, comments from your side? Are you there, Charlene?
Oh, yes, I'm here. Okay.
What do you make of such a hell?
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. Um, okay. I'm glad we're having this conversation about that definition. And I think, like with all words, there's different ways of looking at it. I think so as you relate it to suffering, that suffering helps us grow. There is some benefit to suffering. However, what I think about is unnecessary suffering and necessary suffering. I know I'm using a little bit of dualistic language, but I'll just expand it to mean what I want to do is to minimize unnecessary suffering and just be okay and benefit from any necessary suffering. Do you follow?
Yeah. So thank you, Charlene. So to the question, a lot of people are presented with the notion of hell by the church, which in some cases the purpose is to control through fear. And if I understood Fito clearly, he made the point that he's open to the notion of reincarnation, but he then referenced, the concern one has about hell. And so my response, drawing from friend Rudolf Steiner's insights, is that hell is actually something that we seek because we have shed our lower selves, which are fearful and uncertain. And with death, we are with our essence, and our essence strives to learn, to fulfill itself. And so we seek these experiences. And in fact, the way the universe is fashioned, that's the way it works. We experience with our rickshaw, with our death, with the review of our life, what we've done to others. And we experience what they experienced from our actions. And that can be a bit of hell.
Stuart, I'm wondering what German word Steiner uses that's translated as hell, because that might make a difference. Because, yeah, hell as defined as you're saying, yeah, I would seek hell. However, I'm not to that point where I actually want to seek hell. I don't want to seek suffering. I want to have equanimity around suffering, but I don't want to attract suffering to me. Just like I don't want to attract anything to do with hell, Hell, to me. So that's where I am with that whole word.
I think that's well said. I think that's
Well,
what.
I like to take a step backwards. In my own particular experience, 1977, I had a year to spend doing research on various religions, including not just Christianity, but also Islam and Buddhism and others. But what struck me about hell is that it has been weaponized, in particular by, unfortunately, as I understood it, the Nicene Council early in the new millennium, when the church, quote, decided that it would only be through their intercession that mankind could introduce themselves to God. And Jesus was left out of the equation. However, speaking to Theo's concerns, it is, I think, incumbent upon us to look beyond what we've learned so far. And if we're going to be truly friends with Rudolf Steiner, take that step away from weaponization of any term that's been introduced through any religion in order for us to individually connect with the spirituality that exists, that connects us together with God.
Yes, well said, I would say. Thank you. So, this idea of reincarnation, I wasn't taught that belief. And I'm so glad I now believe differently because, yeah, it helps the world and what's happened, yeah, makes so much more sense. And my son will tell me, well, if you want to rationalize, yeah, go ahead. But no, I keep telling him, I'm not rationalizing. I'm really speaking what's true. So, oh, and I put in the chat a book um, that I think is a good book when we're talking to people that don't know about Rudolf Steiner or are very new. And new to the whole idea that maybe Jesus did teach about reincarnation, or at least didn't teach that there wasn't reincarnation. Um, although Steiner really is a really good source for it, for us that have come to the point where Steiner is a friend whom we trust. I know when I first met Steiner, when I read something that didn't make any sense, I would quit reading him. And I learned to just read with an open mind, that whatever didn't make sense, just trust in the speaker as Steiner or the author or whatever, just trust and keep reading. And it eventually, so far, always makes sense.
I would tend to agree. In my own particular case, I ran into a stumbling block a couple of years ago with Stuart when I first began reading Steiner. But I had to come to the realization that of the voluminous material that he actually shared with us, as you say, Charlie, it's very important for us to get beyond what we don't understand, to ingest as much as possible so we do understand more. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Good summary. Thank you.
Vito, do you want to add anything to this?
No, not really.
Do you feel a little differently about hell from what we have shared?
Yes. So I don't really understand when you say hell is something that we seeking. So, and I it's like for me something that we attract. So we attract it to us, and we face it. We have what we're looking for. This is like, I I present that in my mind. I don't know.
Good, good.
We lost you, Vito, maybe. Were you done talking?
Yes, I'm here. I finished with my thought.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So,
So you can add something about that, please.
just a moment. So I want to bring friends as we draw this hour to its conclusion, and it's been very fruitful in its own way. I want to share with you a little more from this tale of Friend, and I will put it up on the screen.
You know, it's a good bedtime story, I think, although it's not bedtime yet.
Yeah, thank you. So the last paragraph we read, we talked about the village. The legends of the land were many that the elders of the village shared. In earlier times, a neighboring castle, Gandine, had been the seat of the ancestors of the Grail King Parzival. His son, Lohengrin, pledged to the Order of the Swan, was said to have guarded the Holy Grail until, upon Lohengrin's death, the blessed chalice was taken up again into the heavenly realms. There it was safeguarded under the care of the great Celtic archangel and those human souls who, due to their devotion to the Grail during their lives on earth, were upon their death chosen as guardians among the ranks of the heavenly host. From on high they were said to inspire their fellow knights on earth. So legend had it. Going on, modest were the circumstances into which the child was born, far from his parents' forest home. Newcomers in the village, the young couple had few friends. Accordingly, they were all the more sensitive about the cries of the babe, which, despite its mother's loving ministrations, were heard well into the night. Through the rooms of their small home, the mother bore the infant, seeking to soothe her newborn babe in her arms. Pausing by the candle on the windowsill, she glanced out into the night. Luminous snowflakes, snow stars in her native language, filled the air, etching their crystalline forms on the window panes of the lone winter home. Through the homelessness that the young mother herself experienced, did she sense the painstaking struggle of her child's spirit, as it too sought to infuse and inhabit its mortal frame. With the passings of a second season, summer season, the station master and his young family moved northward, closer to his parents' beloved forest ground. A brief stay in the outskirts of the great city was followed by a move to a peaceful country village, as the father advanced with the railroad that awoke the idyllic landscape. There the family set up home. In due time, a sister and brother were born into the world, joined the young family. From the threshold of their modest home, and I visited all of these places, I followed his footsteps. The growing child gazed up to the majestic snow-capped mountains that reflected the rising rays of the sun, and on clear mornings sent its illumined tidings down over their abode. In the village was a mill belonging to the godparents of his siblings. The inquisitive child was welcome any time at the mill, where he studied its operations, paddle wheel, shaft, mill, and runner stones, with great interest. The neighboring textile factory was less accessible. Not a glance inside. The factory was allowed by its distracted manager. All that the child beheld were the wood and raw materials that went in through one door of the great building and the finished products that emerged from the other, along with the workers of dimmed eye and hollow speech. What was going on within the factory? The boy could find no answer to his question, and thus was confronted, often and earnestly, at his young impressionable age, with what he later came to refer to as the limits of knowledge. And then the last section. The child was a quiet boy, in part because from early on he was aware of realms about him that nobody else appeared to perceive. Ever present in his mind was the unexpected encounter in the train station in which his father worked. Sitting alone on a bench in the waiting room, through the door across the way, the unknown lady suddenly appeared. Bearing a striking family resemblance, she pleaded with heart-rending gestures for the child to help. Try to do all you can for me, now and in times to come, he understood her to say, before she approached the stove in the corner of the station and disappeared into it. A foolish child you are, was his father's stern, impatient response to his son's searching report. The father's tone was to change a few days later when he received a letter reporting the suicide of his wife's sister. An important lesson the child had learned, one that would constitute a turning point in his inner life. After the encounter in the train station, he understood how one lives in worlds of the spirit. As a result, his experience of the natural world around him became more intimate. The realms of the spirit revealed themselves ever more fully to his awakening soul. And yet none there were with whom he could speak of what he'd experienced. None who beheld the reality that revealed itself to his inner gaze. Man has not just a mortal body, but an inspiring soul and immortal spirit. The human being is in truth
a spiritual being, striving to become ever more humane. The five-pointed star that the great Leonardo drew, journeying on now through its dimmed earthly orbit. So, friends, a glimpse at this friend of friends, Rudolf Steiner. Thank you that we could gather together, two or more, to call them to heart and mind. Thank you for all what you've shared, Andrew and Charlene and Fito. Those who are able will continue tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And your suggestion, Charlene, for times, please mention them again so I can think about them. You're on mute. You're on mute, Charlene.
For me, I'm thinking about the United States. If you were trying to accommodate everybody in the United States, and I think if you like have a 12-hour difference, you're going to accommodate most of the world. So something like 8 in the morning. So let's see. So I'm Central Time. So 8 o'clock Central Time, 8 o'clock 8 p.m. Central Time. That would convert to 9 a.m. And maybe that's a little bit late if people want to get started with their day. But 9 a.m. would work. 8 a.m. Central Time is 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And then 8 a.m. or then 8 a.m. Central Time would be 9 Eastern Time, 9 p.m. But that might be kind of late for the ones on the East Coast, but maybe the morning one would work for them. So that's what I'm thinking, 8 or 9.
Oh, I've got it. I've got it. So 9 and 9, 9 and 9 Eastern Time.
Yeah, that would be ideal for me. And
Okay.
I think it might work for, people on the, like people all over. I'm not sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Good.
welcome. Thank
Good.
you. Yeah. So you don't know the plan for the next time we would be meeting after tonight, right?
That'll be going out today.
Okay. I'll look for it. Thank you. Because, I had sent this to a lot of people, but they're in the United States. So I don't know, I don't want you to change the time just for us. However, just to get into the whole picture.
Yep. Thank you. Good. Good,
I
friend.
would, I would,
Go ahead.
I would add that I would support that transition because on the West Coast, to get involved early enough before they even get started, and also it would allow those that are able to join.
Andrew, I think I'm having a little hard time hearing you. I don't know about anybody else. So I think all the rest of us need to mute, maybe. That might help. So should we try that?
I don't hear Andrew well. I don't know.
Let me turn off my video.
Yes, okay now.
Can you hear me better now?
Thank you. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would also agree that perhaps 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern Time would work for those people here on the West Coast as well, because it's early enough for them before they get their day started, and for others, it's time enough for them to get home from work. So I would also suggest, if at all possible, the 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time as an alternative for the rest of the duration. That would be my suggestion.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Good. I think we'll probably do that. So thank you for your suggestion, Charlene, and thank you for your confirmation, Andrew. And you'll be getting a glimpse of these next days today. But we have carried this on. So thank you very much for 2 or more gather. All the best, friends.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
It's quite an undertaking you've endeavored here, Stuart. So thank you. And
You're most
Andrew, where do you live?
I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was thinking closer to me. I'm in Wisconsin. Okay. Glad to
Okay,
meet
have a good day. All right.
you.
Goodbye to all.